a chart of her periods?
All right. We are tWoTcast, episode 254.
All right, everyone shut the f*** up.
Wheel of Time. Reread podcast. Explicit and R freaking rated. Jono's the wild card, always talking shit. Joe's the straight man. He's a total dick. Tom calls in if he's not too busy. We are tWoTcast!
You're listening to tWoTcast, the Wheel of Time Reread podcast. Now interviewing Alan Romanczuk, editor of tWoT. And this episode is being recorded for JordanCOnline. That's a clever pun that I didn't make up.
Wow. It is pretty clever. Do you get it? Do you understand the pun?
No.
It's like JordanCon, but we're doing it online because we can't do it in person. So they combine
With me
the
is
two words.
Jono. Jono. Hi, Jono. Hi, Joe. And I'm Joe. And Tom is sometimes here too, and actually is again.
Yeah, study your math.
And with us, of course, is editor of tWoT, Alan Romanczuk. Yay! Hi, Alan.
Editor or something. Yeah.
Alan, you did this hilarious thing at the JordanCon episode last year when I introduced you and you just held up your drink silently. And then I had to say something along the lines of, Alan, you need to actually say hi because this is a podcast and no one can see you hold up your drink because we don't have viewers. And you literally just did the same thing.
But we do have
a full year later. We do have viewers. They're all viewers.
Remind you that it says Barmaster.
That is correct. Say Barmaster. Yeah. From possibly one of our worst JordanCon episodes ever, when the room is filled with loud, drunk people, and no one could hear you explain your amazing drink concoctions that you made.
Well, it's not often you find a 20-minute drink preparation either. But
I enjoyed it.
20 minutes.
It did follow line by line the scene of Avienda and Rand getting together.
It's a beautiful world.
They shaved the ice off the side of the igloo, put it in their drinks, swirled it around.
Let's have that. I mean, for people that don't know, let's have Alan tell them what was your role on the book. Books with an S.
Books.
As a whole?
Yeah, some people don't know.
I guess some people are stupid, Tom. You're right.
Yes, they are. This is supposed to be professional, Joe. Come on.
Yeah, Robert Jordan never let me edit one word. What I...
Oh, Alan's frozen.
I'm frozen.
Yeah, now you're good. Now you're good.
Take the ice off the igloo.
Break the ice. Here, tongs, right? It's a dragon reborn.
I like that way too much.
For all our viewers at home, they couldn't see that. Alan held up ice tongs and clamped them together, and their little teeth looked like dragons.
In your mature, Sorry, go on, Alan.
I clean gutters. I pay bills. But on the books themselves, I answered a lot of questions. So a typical day would be going into the office and Jim having laid out a bunch of questions on the floppy drive. We were into floppies back then. And
they were into floppies.
Then I bring out the tongs. What?
Floppy drives and...
So what kind of questions?
Oh, where was so-and-so and so-and-so when they were last seen?
Oh, wow.
Give a description of 3 villages in this area so I could put the characters in there. Give me examples of how they spoke.
Alan, you're breaking up again. Give us examples of what?
Breaking up is hard to do, Joe.
Great song.
Giving examples of the way certain characters spoke.
Oh, gotcha.
Because when you got to 2,000 characters, he would occasionally lose memory of them. So
what time frame are we talking about? Like 96? So like books, like 6 or 7, or are we talking later on?
no, I joined 2 weeks before 9/11, so the summer of 2001.
Oh wow!
So like 8/28 or something. Yeah.
So it was your fault.
Well, they tried to blame me, but I couldn't be made to stay.
You edited those questions out, took care of that.
Yeah, so it was right after Winter's Heart came out, I guess.
Okay, so after book 9.
So almost more of like a continuity coordinator.
Yeah, that sort of thing. And well, I've told the story a lot of times, but I'm not gonna. No, if you hadn't said. What was the question? I'm drinking Old Overholt, by the way.
Oh, nice.
How do you say I've answered this questions a lot of time and then follow it up with what's the question?
So let me tell you about the birds. We've been bored with things to do here.
Yeah.
And, outside on our balcony, there's a light that birds in the past have tried to put up a nest. And when they've come along and started building a nest, I've always swiped it away. Not because I'm mean, but because we didn't want to disturb the birds, because we like to use our balcony occasionally.
Yeah, it's almost for their sake.
So every year I've had to do that, and then they'd get the idea and go elsewhere. This year, I did that, and I heard this wild chirping outside, just like at Tom's place. And this is like a Mrs. Finch bitch on wheels. She's berating me, but she's berating her husband, this red feathered guy sitting in the oak tree right off our balcony. And next thing I know, she's called in a gang of finches. I've never seen this before. 6 birds are building this nest. And I said, what are we going to do? And I look out, and here's Mrs. Finch pulling on a string of a hydrangea that's in a pot on my balcony, trying to get it loose to put into the nest. And poor thing is just ripping herself apart. And she finally flies off to take a breather. And I went off and pulled the string out for her. I capitulated. And
so now you're helping to build the nest.
The string is gone. Yeah, the string is gone. And not only that, but a T-shirt I had drying out on the balcony was torn to shreds also. They took that to the nest.
It's like your own Alfred Hitchcock movie.
The story was made better with Tom's sound effects of actual birds.
There aren't even any birds here. That was just special effects.
Just Lindsay in the background whistling.
For the story.
You should have helped make the nests, and then they would have abandoned. Or you now have something else under your like the things I've done recently.
All right.
Well, I was
Alan. How did you get the job?
What, sitting on the nest? Or
no.
Yes.
The nest.
We're done with the finches. Okay, so
we'll be coming back.
Amy and my son and Maria Simmons' sons went to the same school. And we became friends with Maria during that time. I was one of the tennis coaches, and both our sons were on the team. And Maria would come and knit in the stands while we're practicing, and then take her son home. And so we got to know Maria really well. And Amy, who was a clinical nurse at the time, was starting to get sicker and sicker with latex allergy. And she knew her time was limited on that. So she went to Maria one day and said, if you ever have a real job for my husband, you know, he's okay. He'll do all right.
That sounds right.
And my body was starting to break down too. And this is about the same time I had mercury poisoning. I had my own gardening company at the time, and working out in the Charleston heat for 6-7 months a year.
Yeah, that'll make it good.
The mercury from my fillings were starting to be retained by my body.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
my dad had the same thing with amalgams.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was, amalgams. I had 13.
Are you my father?
Isn't he with Jono amalgamated? That's
Oh,
Yes.
yeah. So anyway, somebody died at Bandersnatch right after that. A lady named Myra, who I never met.
Jesus Christ.
This is dark.
Dark origin story, Alan.
Yeah, for real. It's fantastic.
Well, I
The
want to tell you my other 2 jobs prior to which I also got when one died. But
Hey, are you a murderer?
no.
He's not, but he did murder 5 bar masters to get that Heron Mark glass.
yeah.
That's part of the shtick. So like 2 days later, I got a call, come on in. And I had an interview with Jim, Robert Jordan. And I didn't insult him or anything. So that was cool. And I was hired. So my first day, I was asked to find out something from the books, which now 9 books, and what's that, about 2,700 pages?
Had you read them before?
Well, not that.
So no.
I hear Amy's laughter in the background. That's part.
Maria had a signed edition of Eye of the World to a school fundraiser, and we were the winning bid. And my wife had read it, my son read it, and they both said, you should read this. And I read it and liked it, but I said, damn, there's so many books ahead. I'm not going to go on with it. You know, it was fun.
So you read book 1.
Forced to show up to work. Book 1. The day before I showed up to work, it says I'm unstable here. We good?
That's correct.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, no, that's correct.
It's not talking about your internet connection.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
I downloaded from internet summaries of all of the books, and I read through that.
Nice.
I showed up an expert, and I guess the first day, second day, whatever, Jim asked me a question that required me to skim through every single book to get the answer. And I was bleary-eyed after a day and a half. I said, this can't go on. You know, I'm not going to do this. So I got together with Maria, and we decided we'd download all of the digital files from Usenet, where people had scanned in the books. And we did that, and then lawyers on them to take down all of this stuff, because that's highly illegal. So we had all the digital files and started cleaning them up, but we had something that was searchable now.
Oh, okay.
Did you let on to him that you did not know how to find it, or you hadn't actually read the books, or was it like a wacky workplace comedy where your boss asks you to do something, you say okay, and then you're like scrambling around for 2 days trying to get it done?
Yeah, I don't think it ever occurred to him to ask me if I ever read the books.
I feel like that's a critical question in the interview.
It's a prerequisite for a continuity editor in my mind.
Besides, I had read the summaries, so I probably could have answered most.
I I've read the book jackets.
Yeah.
It's not like a written quiz, you know?
Yeah. What I love is the fact that what you did is that what so many other people afterwards have done, said like, I really like that first book, but fuck me, there's a lot. And then to make it a step further, you were supposed to work on it to make that even more. And you were probably like, no, there's going to be a lot more books, a lot more work. I'm not going to do that. And that's your job. Like, it's a very ironic turnabout.
Yeah. How many was he anticipating writing, like, still when you were hired, and how many got added?
Well, I think at that time, I mean, to answer Alan's question, I think, wasn't it supposed to be 12 at that point?
It was supposed to be 12. I mean, the question I heard all along was there are going to be 3 more.
Yeah.
That just kept happening until Jim got sick, and then it was going to be one last book.
Which would be 3 more. So
Which would be 3 more.
yeah.
In Brandon speak, yeah.
That's fun.
There was a lot of material left. There really was.
Oh God, yeah. How much? And this isn't one of those that you probably want to tackle necessarily, but how much do you think was left on the editing floor, or how much was left that would have probably been, it had there been more time and more just of a will to kind of flush everything out? How much was there? Like another whole book worth?
Oh yeah. No, there was a lot of material. I mean, nothing was flushed, I don't think. Which brings up a story, but that's for later. No, there nothing. I mean, pretty much everything significant in Jim's notes wound up getting published.
But how much was left out that you would have loved to kind of, that had a normal, what's funny is I said flush, but I'm kind of drunk, and I meant to say flesh. Kind of the opposite. How much would have been there?
I responded with flushed. But.
Yeah. Well, that's because you're thinking of
That's cute.
John, no one can see that.
Oh, I don't care.
We don't have any viewers. We don't have viewers. We have listeners.
Actually,
we have only
I can
listeners.
literally see 3 other viewers.
He's pushing his cheek up to the camera that looks strangely like baby buttocks, and he's
that's true.
Rubbing it with his
the rosy.
Yeah.
How long did it take him to figure out how to do that?
Do what? What?
How long did it take him to realize
I don't know.
Alan's wife Amy is randomly commenting in the background, and no one can hear it.
She's starting to heckle me.
Says I cannot answer that question.
Oh, she's heckling Jono.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Alan, tell your wife that the Department of Child Services says I cannot legally answer.
She heard.
I thought the Department of Child Services forces you to answer and tell all your neighbors while you're at it.
Same thing. All right, but this is not neighbors. These are remote viewers.
So whenever there's time, I have a public service announcement.
Alan, we have time anytime you want to have time, like right now.
Oh, the tape hasn't run out yet? All right. So
I'm not sure, but wait. No, we're out of time.
All right. So here's what happened. I was chatting with an old friend. What the heck's his name? I'll think of it in a minute. And I was bemoaning the fact that toilet paper is really hard to get these days. For those listening to this in future decades, we're going through a pandemic right now, the COVID-19 pandemic worldwide. We have stay-at-home orders, and toilet paper is nowhere to be found. So I'm bemoaning to this guy. We're down to using Windex and sock puppets to clean ourselves.
Specifically,
Windex is a really bad idea.
And he said, "Hey, you've come to the right place.
Just use a regular sock."
A friend of mine 6 months ago talked me into getting a bidet.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which my wife has been wanting for years. Which is why when we had our bathroom just redone. We put in a receptacle right next to the potty. So I said, okay, tell me about it. I don't really have any experience with bidets.
It's a reverse urinal.
He said, look, you sit down on this thing, you got a control panel next to you. So you're on the command central, and you push the button that says clean. And all of a sudden you get this jet of water sluicing up your buttocks. It's like, he said it's like taking your anus through a Wings car wash. And I said, so I'm like, I don't know if this is the right thing, you know?
No, that's the exact thing you need.
But he didn't really hear what I said. He said, well, there are some downsides because I was just zoning out. He fell asleep sitting on the bidet, and the seat warmer was so hot, it seared a ring into his backside. He said it was like a giant she-devil planted a kiss right on my ass. And I don't know if it's ever going to come out.
As we all know, she-devils leave acidic kisses behind on our asses.
They always do.
Dude, everyone you're not selling me on... He said, no, believe me, this is amazing. When this jet of water starts sluicing up through your nether parts, it's like you can hear the angels sing. He's really gone into hard sell. You can appreciate it.
I'll be honest, you're not in a hard sell zone for me.
And he said, but that's not all. The other day I got frisky, he says. And I went and got out one of those magazines I hide behind the towels in the bathroom. You know, the kind that come in black, in brown paper.
Sports Illustrated?
Yeah. And I sat down.
The kind that have a gatefold person in the center?
Possibly so. And I hit the clean button, and it started in heaven. And
wait, it started what?
Excited, and I'm getting excited. But wait, there's more. I hit the lady parts button. The spray of water starts coming forward over my taint into the office.
This is fantastic.
This is 1,000% not what I was expecting.
There it is, tempting my junk. And I pushed the final button on the control panel. What was it? Pulsate. Beam me up, Scotty, he said. I said, okay, dude, I'm in. Where do I get one of these?
Yeah. And he's like...
So I installed it over the weekend, and I've been using it ever since.
To pulsate?
Maybe can't get into the bathroom. So I'd really recommend this product to anyone out there.
All right. I like to have water sluicing up my taint.
Yeah. This is actually a conception story, I believe.
This is fantastic. First of all, can I just clarify, you started this story by, for the future decades of listeners, we're in a pandemic.
Like some wisdom was about to come.
Yeah, like you're about to lay down some wisdom for the future generations.
Make sure you wash your hands.
Oh my god!
I don't really know where to follow up from that one.
I'm sure I can think of something.
Follow-up questions. Yeah.
So how do you clean up afterwards? Because presumably
You got to clean up all over again.
Yeah.
No, you hit the dry button.
You're back.
And it's like a hair dryer comes into your butt. And
Well, I've done that before, but I'm assuming it's not an ejaculation, of course. It's like, how do you clean that up? Because now, like, did it land on you?
You clean up the ejaculation with Windex and a sock puppet on the wall.
That's why there's still a demand.
Yeah. Get on Amazon and order some sock puppets.
Oh, man. You know, actually, does anyone have a question? Because I need to collect myself for a minute.
I guess my question is for Jeff Bezos. What is the Amazon demand for Windex, sock puppets, and bidets in like a one set order? Like, is that something that's kind of happened a lot after this podcast? The answer has got to be.
I can answer the third one. So I'm looking at tWoT bidets on a Friday and taking the weekend to think about it. On Monday, the price of the same bidet doubled.
Congrats, Alan. You drive global demand.
No, it was like a group think. Everyone had the same thought at the same time.
I mean, I think that's exactly what that is.
How much is that bidet?
Your prostate drives global demand for bidets.
How much was the bidet? That's my question. Get off this call and order one right now.
With taxes and all of that, it was about $400. I think it was $360. That was Amazon. Look at Wayfair though. Wayfair has some
what I need.
tWoTs.
Yeah.
And tWoTs are very, very good ones.
So I guess the question would be for Joe, when is this episode going to air so we can buy before the demand increase?
Well, it's going to air this weekend at JordanCOnline. Get out of here, dog.
Tom, when's your payday? If it's Friday, you're good.
So we need to go right now.
Yeah, we should probably stop this and then come back.
Yeah, the telephone crews are waiting for your call right now.
Actually, I found toilet paper one day, so we're still okay.
Really? What's your
secret?
It was just magically there when I was there one day.
Inadvertently, we went to Costco in like early March, which is something I fucking hate. We bought just toilet paper, paper towels, and I don't know, some other shit, doesn't matter. And like, what's funny is like our first the anniversary for our first date, and by our I mean Tom and I, is mid-March, and so like we were gonna go up to my parents' lake house, and where I live is a duplex. I always kind of use the other side as a whatever the fuck because I'm a shitty person. And storage. Yeah, storage. There we go. And my blow-up doll wife / Tom was just kind of like, should we move this toilet paper like just out of the window, like out of the view? And the fact that was a legitimate question, that I decided, yeah, I guess we'll do that. It has to be just the most like you live in fucked up times when you move your toilet paper out of the window. I
that guy's got toilet paper over there. Let's break in.
Yeah.
Hey, when I found it and was walking out of the store with it, I thought I might get into a fight. I was trying to hide it.
Wow.
Especially considering that it's you who weighs 120 pounds.
That's what you think, buddy. I got fat.
And there's no hiding toilet paper. So you want to know the funny thing? My son lives in New York City, and when this started coming along, a friend of his who had a family house in Connecticut said, "You want to join us up there?" So he got out of the city, and his friend's parents sent them a large box containing toilet paper and a bidet. It never arrived. Somebody stole it.
God damn it. Talk about covering both avenues.
I ordered some on Amazon in the middle of March that's still not here. And I just keep checking the tracking notification every day because the day that it's actually going to arrive, I got to make sure I'm standing in the hallway with a baseball bat to get it.
But day it actually arrives?
Whoa!
I see what you did. Question.
I'm like Jono, and we had a mountain of toilet paper from Costco before all this started, and we're like, oh, we're good.
I would have guessed I just cut out the only fight I was ever going to have in my life.
Yeah.
Well, next question.
I don't have anything except about
I was going to
assholes
say,
now.
well, I have some Twitter questions, Alan, from actual people that care to talk to you about important things like the book series that you edited.
We talked about the book, Joe.
Oh yeah, we did.
I have other questions.
The book that I didn't edit.
So from Christian Lehman at Buffy Antiqua, he said, is he a long-term editor? And I suppose that question is for us, and which we responded with laughter, and of course he is. And then he said, how did changes in technology change how editing worked from hard copies to CD-ROMs to emails? Which
That's
I guess you sort of touched on when you were talking about the floppy disks earlier.
Well, the editing. All right. So keeping in mind, I never edited anything Robert Jordan wrote.
Right.
But I was involved heavily in the last 3 books. What happened was, but still,
wait, what happened was
not funny at all.
I know I'm laughing because you froze. What happened?
You froze that. What happened was.
It just said I'm unstable. That's all.
No.
My wife already does that all the time.
I know.
Not new to me.
So still, with all of this going on for a couple more books, what would happen was Jim would finish a book and it would be digitized because he wrote at the computer, and he was all he could do. He printed it out.
And he what?
He printed it out and gave it to Harriet. And I think the last couple of books, Maria can tell you, but she actually had a hand in doing some edits also. But Harriet was the main one. And she took the hard copy and did her usual thing with the red pencil. And I think gave it back to Jim maybe, and he would do a few more things. And it got sent off to Tor, where they looked through it and retyped it in so it could go to typeset and be published.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that meant we'd have to go to the equivalent of Usenet or the Darknet to get digitized copies of the final thing. We still weren't getting them. So Paul Stevens was the editor at Tor still. And I said, Paul, you got to help us. Give me that. You've got to have a clean digital copy of this after the. So he started doing that, and so I tacked that on, created one huge file that was really slow, but it had every single book in the file, so you could do a global search on everything. And so yeah, we were good by the time the later books were produced.
It must have been hell before you were there.
Well, no, I don't think it was, because there was Maria, and the reason I was brought in was Maria had so many duties at that point. She just didn't have time for. So I was working on that. She got everything. She would come in also, but she has this amazing encyclopedic mind for the series.
Right.
And, so I don't think it was a huge deal back then. But then when I think the number of characters passed 1,600, and there were several hundred villages and towns and a lot of cities and countries, it just got too much. So it was really good.
It was really what?
Good.
unstable. It was unstable.
No. It was really unstable. It was really unstable.
The best part of this to me by a mile is that when we ask him a question about the book, like it keeps dropping out, and then when he tells a story about jerking off with his bidet,
Yeah,
clear as
that
a
one
bell.
stays in. That one's crystal clear. The questions about books,
Not one issue.
who knows?
What you don't know is when we ask him, Amy all of a sudden starts looking up everything she can about editing on her computer, and it snatches all the fucking bandwidth because he doesn't have a fucking clue. But normally, that's his real answer.
Yeah,
It's just
Amy, stop sucking up all the bandwidth.
we know she's looking up bullshit answers.
No, she's playing video games or something.
Yeah,
right?
she's playing games on her phone. It's sucking up all your bandwidth, Alan.
Yeah,
While sitting on the bidet.
yeah. I wonder if the signal will reach the bidet.
We all know you're sitting on that. We can see where you're sitting.
Yes, the backdrop of Alan's video feed for our viewers that can't actually see him is it's a bathroom. It's clearly a bathroom.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. I do want to show you something.
Oh, we're going to get up and...
No, we don't want to see
Rome?
that. Oh, never mind.
I don't know. Can you see that Rembrandt-like portrait up there in the corner? All right. That's. I'm still trying to get the provenance of that. It's a very old painting, but the crazy thing, everyone knows Leslie Annis, right?
Yes.
The crazy thing is the wood carver in that portrait looks just like Leslie's husband, Mike.
Who was there at JordanCon last year?
He was.
Yeah.
He was. I love your birds, Tom, or is that mine?
No, that's Tom.
That's not me.
Probably mine.
His
I live
birds
in a
are
valley in the
extremely annoying.
I live in a valley in the middle of the mountains by a river.
Oh,
Beautiful.
I have to keep muting it because there's an insane barking dog now.
Tell Lindsay to be quiet.
That's a hilarious Tom's wife is horrible too.
next question.
It's the best I can do.
All right, Alan, I'll give you another Twitter question here. Were there? Oh, sorry. This is from Jana. I did not write her last name down, and she's at tWoT Jana. Listen, I don't make this up. It's just there. I'm just reading it. Were there any deaths in the last book that he would have liked to edit out? I assume he, meaning you, would have liked to edit out. Also, who is Alan's favorite character? That's actually two questions, so it's a two-parter.
Good for her.
And I would like to add a third part to that. Are there any deaths that didn't happen that you wish would have happened?
Yes.
I actually did have a follow-up to that, Tom. It's literally, are there any deaths you would have edited in? But go ahead, Alan.
Hang on while I write these down.
Yeah.
Funnily, the two questions were very popular questions on the book tour for companion to the Wheel of Time. Not to go flogging that, but it's important that every Wheel of Time fan own a copy of the companion to the Wheel of Time.
I agree.
The ultimate encyclopedia. So on the book tour for this, Harriet talked about Bella.
Goddamn.
And she made Brandon kill off Bella. Brandon
I like
didn't want to do it. You're doing so. Don't blame the poor guy. But Harriet resurrected Bella after that. So everything was cool as far as the horse went.
So she made him kill Bella in the book, but then when you guys did the Wheel of Time companion, she was like, "All right, I'll write this in." Bella lived.
Yeah, exactly. So if you look up Bella in the companion, it talks about Bella resurrection, very fitting after Easter. But all right, so my favorite character, the one I talked about on book tour was Ajimbora. And I'd always ask for a show of hands who can tell me who Ajimbora was. And maybe one or two hands would go up among the four people sitting there in the audience.
Yeah.
and no.
No, there was at least 7.
Ajahn Bora was what, General Kadir, was that his name?
Yeah, Kadir, yeah.
Kadir.
It's been a while. The Sean Penn
Adnan Kadir.
general. He was the dog buddy of the general, and he was a real
normal.
He drank out of a skull, Alan. We like that guy. He's great.
Really.
Where's the skull?
Where's the skull? I want to drink out of the skull. It's behind me. He drank out of a skull. He was from a hill tribe in Shanshan, and he was a very crude character. And Kadir, when he first met him, thought he might kill him, and then he grew to like him. And Ajahn Bora was very, very faithful to the general and was a good man. Ajahn Bora, of all the people in time, the 2,000 plus characters, he's the one person I could point to and say, this character is drawn from real life. Jim and Harriet had a gardener / handyman
Who drank out of his skull.
and he was a Vietnam vet who had been through, well, not too many wars. I think his problem was beyond that. It was more substance. So he was a little off kilter, but Jim and Harriet both loved him, and he was just totally faithful to them. And, physical description was very much Ajahn Bora, everything about him. And I was still wondering about this when I asked Kelly one day, have you ever eaten a rat?
What prompted that?
I don't know if you remember. Ajahn Bora used to catch rats and fry them up real good and eat them. And Kelly said, as a matter of fact, I did, and went on to relate this long story about being with a Vietnamese family who fed him a rat. And I said, bingo, this is Kelly. So in the companion, the Ajahn Bora entry says what happened to him at the last battle. Now, if you recall, there were thousands of rats at one point coming across the battlefield.
It is the best day of Ajahn Bora's life.
The true story of what happened to Ajahn Bora was he was starting to grab up rats to fry them, and they overran him and ate him.
Oh no!
No, you can't. My wife's going to use the bidet.
Oh my God!
Shall we go to enjoy the next half hour of her life? I guess
we know what that's about.
Yeah,
you're otherwise occupied.
She's about to hair dry her vajayjay.
It's going to hit the lady button. I know it.
And then pulsate.
No, not that.
Not the pulsate. Don't do the pulsate.
If you hear shrieks, don't worry about it.
Just the local haunting. That's okay.
Yeah.
I would love. What if, like, 15 minutes from now, I'm just like, is that
Charleston
a ghost?
has a lot of ghosts.
Is that a ghost in Charleston? No, it's my wife's using the bidet.
We changed what we called going to the old watering hole about 6 weeks ago. It's very different now.
Do you guys want to wait real quick, Alan? Follow-up question: are there any deaths that you would have wanted to edit into the book? I mean, seriously, I have a lot of deaths I would like to edit in. Elaine.
Elaine, really?
No, I hate Elaine. I mean, I love Elaine. She's the worst.
The worst. What do you hate most about her?
Probably the fact
we don't
that
have
she
time
was...
for that.
This is not our podcast. This is for you.
Yeah, you can listen to episodes of tWoTcast 1 through 250 or so. And,
Yeah, it goes on
and hear me rant about how much I love Elaine. Yeah, is there any
On
deaths
and
that you would
on.
have edited in?
No, that's not how my mind works, Joe. I'm sorry.
All right. Fair enough answer.
Kind of a question in a similar vein. Since you can't edit in the deaths, are there characters that you didn't like? And then he would ask you like, hey, when's the last time we saw these characters and where were they? Were you ever tempted to just be like, oh, that one's dead?
Like Elaine.
Did you ever just try to trick him?
No, you have to understand, back then, I didn't know anything about the books. So I didn't know who was good or bad.
Where was the last time we saw Elaine Tracan? I think she's dead.
Yeah.
I think she's dead. She should
So
be. If she's not, she should be.
If there's a part in a book where we left a character in one village and then 2 books later they're in a completely different part of the world, is that because you just made it up?
No comment. No comment.
That's an affirmative if I've ever heard one.
It's like, he needs this answer in an hour. I don't have time. They were Pittsburgh.
Alan, this question kind of ties into the bidet discussion from earlier.
Was that a Twitter question about a bidet already?
What? No. What?
Oh, doing Twitter questions and so I was like, about the bidet.
I said it ties into the bidet discussion. Dial it down, Jono. You're out of control over there.
I am.
This is from Robert Ozimek. I don't know how you would pronounce that. At Robert Ozimek on Twitter. Did you have this conversation? Quote. So James.
I thought this question was rude.
Tom, why are you interrupting the question? I thought your interruption of his rude question was rude. He asked, did you ever have this conversation, Alan, with James or with Jim? So, James, about the spanking ellipses. I guess he wants to know if you ever discussed the spanking in the book with Robert Jordan.
I wonder why Robert asks.
I don't know. I don't find anything wrong with all the spanking.
Not enough. Did you ever have that conversation with him? Like, Jim,
Yeah.
more. Why isn't there more spanking?
Not enough spanking.
I think that was where the question was going.
Oh,
About the spanking, there's not enough of it. That's true. He just left the ellipses. It's really for you to fill in.
no.
And that's the end of that.
Thanks, Robert.
You know, like, we've done so many live episodes at JordanCon with Alan so far, and like there are so many times I'm like, oh, Alan will like love this question. He'll answer it. It'll be so good. And like many times he's just been like, no.
One of the things,
Good answer.
let me tell you one of the things about humor, Joe.
It's actually not the question that I thought was rude after all, too.
Oh. What do you think was rude?
There's one.
Is it the Gwen Tracan one that I'm about to read? All right.
Yeah, probably. When I read it, I was like, why did this guy even read the books?
It's long-winded, but I'll get there, Alan. This is from Gwen Tracan, at G Tracan.
Why am I the most annoying character in the book?
He has a long wind up to his question, so let me read this. One of the very few, in parentheses, complaints WoT fans have about Jordan is that he tends to be both long-winded and repetitive, especially in prologues and in the beginning of the books, refreshing readers on things they already know and taking pages to describe a scene that could be done in paragraphs. As one of his editors, what was behind the decision not to trim these sections down? Did he override your suggestions? Did you think it was necessary to leave this to preserve Jordan's style, or something else entirely? It sounds like maybe more of a Harriet question, actually, but maybe answer
it. Just a continuity editor.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, they don't know his specific role.
And not only that, his role was bigger than continuity. His role, let's see, gutters, bidet.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch
drawing connections between Kelly the gardener and Ashenborough.
Yeah.
And did I mention bidet?
And did I mention the bidet?
You very much did.
It pulsates.
Do you call? Right. And we'll get to that. That's a great question this guy asked, but fuck him. Do you call the second of every month bidet? Day.
I was born on bidet.
I was born on bidet, April bidet. April 2nd is my birthday.
Jono, we've been drinking. And I mean, we've all been drinking. So let Alan answer the question before he completely forgets the question.
Yeah, I was born September 2nd. So there you are. Is there more to the question? I think so. It's like this. Repetition. There's always going to be a bit of repetition in a multi-series book. It's not implicit that the reader is going to be that familiar after a wait of a year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever, with what happened last time. They have to also take into account that some doofus like my wife picks up book 4 for the first book she reads in the Wheel of Time series.
Yeah, she's putting out tonight after that.
Yeah.
Well, she's definitely not putting out after the bidet session.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I anticipate.
It's just me and the bidet from here on.
My tombstone.
So, yeah, there has to be some repetition in that respect.
Yeah.
But more importantly, I think, I remember a lot of talk about, all right, do I just go on with this scene? A lot of people have criticized the fact that, certain books are very short almost and repetitive, and there don't seem to be a lot of new scenes in them. But what happened was when Jim started writing those, so what happens is there's a certain rhythm, there's a story arc that has to be accomplished.
Yeah.
And he actually got, I think, stuck a couple of times, if I can use that word. I don't know if that's the proper sentiment, but he realized that if he included what he had hoped to include in that, it would have been like a 1,600-page book.
I walked that.
So he had to cut it off at a certain point and pick up in the next book, the scene. So there are a couple of that suffered that way. And, you have to realize this was a pioneering kind of thing.
Yeah.
Nobody had written these huge epic fantasies that went on volume after volume after volume before that. I mean,
agreed.
Tolkien did a trilogy.
Right.
And nobody just kept it going like that.
Yeah, they call Tolkien epic fantasy, and it's not epic, but it's one of those things where I'm just like comparing, like what Robert Jordan did was truly groundbreaking in that sense, like that many volumes and that many books. Of course there's going to be repetition, and of course there's going to be scenes that carry on to the next book that he's trying to remind the reader. When you read them back to back, you're like, this is repetitive. When you read it like 3-4 years apart, you're like, oh, thank God he refreshed me with what was happening.
Yeah.
The difficult thing is, like as Alan said, like how do you start, the next book, right? If it's been, 18 months, 24 months, if you're someone like Rothfuss or Martin, it's been, 6 years. Like how do you, how do you take care of that? Like kind of like, you remember Rand, right? Tall, ginger, Aiel, maybe going insane, or do you pretend like that no time has passed, but that's going to be bullshit because not every reader, thank God, despite what we do, is going to, the 12th installment of whatever the fuck is out. I got to reread books 1 through 11, so I got to get caught up. It's the author's job to make sure that you're up to date on shit. And so you kind of have to say, like, you remember Joe? He's got a bit of a beard, wears that tWoTcast shirt. People kind of like give a little bit of details. He's got some hard nipples, but maybe the left one, because when he eats spicy food, it kind of gets harder than the other one. Like, you kind of have to bring them in. Not too much. You don't have to read everything, but you kind of got to get Joe caught up in his lifestyle. He just had a kid, like 18 months ago. Well,
sounds like Jono might have also been a little offended by this question.
A little bit.
I just thought it was a little.
Here's how I feel. I want that 1,600-page book that fucking Alan mentioned. I'm this type of dumbass who's about to ask, like, hey, Alan, clandestinely, so don't record this shit, Joe. Could you send me things that have just been chopped off that, Harriet said, no, we don't need this? Because I'd rather more info than less. And especially considering that, by the way, recently that Wheel of Time's done, I'd rather know what was on the chopping block. I'd like to know. I mean, why not? It's just that.
I'd rather know Warrior of the Altai, but that's me.
I would too.
Warrior of the Altai.
So I guess that brings us to an interesting point here, in that I will ask a Twitter question for no one on Twitter, in that Alan and I have been exchanging dick pics online and discussing
as per usual.
It's not unusual to be loved by anyone.
Yeah, because Jono, you mentioned this to us or to me the other day, but I mean, obviously I'm not privy to what you guys have been talking to. Like, what have you guys been talking about Warrior of the Altai?
Well, he and I are both into barbarian fantasy. It's like me as a receiver, he as a barbarian. And and so he'd never edited the books, and that's understandable because he was not there in 1979, nor he had already retired 2 years ago. Is that right? 2 years?
2 years.
But he had actually seen the whole damn thing. And so I think we all know that if you've read any of the Fallon Blood or other things, probably, Jordan's a big fan of cum shots, cream pies, and other things. And there's really not too much of that in the book, even though it's ostensibly kind of barbarians. And barbarians like a few things, and Alan, you can probably tell us what those few things are. Fucking, and killing and fucking.
Headaches, rape, weather.
Yeah. So the fact that there was light descriptions of that, but nothing like real deep, makes you wonder how much was edited out. So he and I have been kind of fantasizing. We're probably going to work on our own fanfic version of Warriors of the Altai.
All right, you and Alan going to work on a fanfic for Warrior of the Altai?
He never said yes to it, but I just did.
I will buy that.
Wait, Jono, I bet if you wrote it, Alan would be interested in editing it for you.
Probably very much interested in editing it.
I was going to ask
continuity as well.
The continuity, yeah. You got to keep it. You got to keep it to the reality of the situation.
Alan, if I write a book 15, will you edit that?
I'm sorry, my wife rudely coughed when you said that. If I write book 15, will you edit that for me? Book 15
of the Wheel of Time.
What are you going to call it, Tom? What's the title?
I don't know yet.
Book 15.
What?
Maybe book 15 will do.
Yeah, that's it. Book 15 of the Wheel of Time. Book 15 of the Wheel of Time is the parentheses of that.
It would be an honor. It would be.
I can't wait. I'll send you first draft Tuesday because I don't have anything to do.
Hey, Alan, when you first got on the series, was the prequel book like well underway, or what was going on with the prequel book during your time? Because that was kind of around when you got onto the series. So
you mean New Spring?
Yes, yeah. Because loosely on the internets back in the day, I recall a plan for 3 prequel books.
Yeah. So Robert Silverberg?
No, Jordan.
It's Jordan.
Yeah.
Bergensteinhoff-Finberg, I think you meant.
Did an anthology, and Jim wrote a short story, which was The New Spring.
Right, yeah.
for that. So that's all that existed at that time. And yeah, I really can't figure out. Maria would know. Why isn't Maria here, for God's sake?
Me and Tom and Jono thought that too many talking heads on one podcast would be confusing, so we were going to do maybe a separate thing with Maria. But that's why.
So I don't remember, but it was decided to expand that and turned it into a novella, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And that happened while I was there. But
right, yeah. Was that after 10 or 11? That was after 11?
It was after 10.
It was after 10, okay.
Because I remember, and no offense to you here, work here, God damn it. I remember like 9 was fucking awesome, and then you read book 10, and you're like, I feel like I advanced the plot this size of my dick, so not much. And then
that's when I was there, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. I love you so much.
A lot.
And then, who'd have guessed that my biggest is what was probably 2002, something like that. Yeah, as a 17-year-old boy, the person I would hate the most was the guy I'm fucking talking to now. I was just like, all right, 10 didn't. What's after 10? And the answer was a fucking
11.
Next up on Blue Balls.
Where Tom's scheme is brilliant, because you just call it book 15, and you know.
Yeah, then you know. And then you know.
We get to work on that.
Yeah.
Tom, what are you going to call book 15? I don't know. Book 15? Sounds good.
Yeah,
very good.
Book 15.
As an editor of the Wheel of Time, I think that's a good idea.
The 15th book. Yeah, but then you know.
Why? I mean, if it's editor approved, why would I come up with another title?
I think it's obvious, though, to come back to seriousness. I think it's obvious that really Alan kind of was able to assert his authority for book 11, Knife of Dreams, which is, of course.
Look, just here's the title of the book.
No.
Tell me a medieval weapon.
Penis.
Polearm.
Polearm. All right. Tell me a liquid.
Mercury.
Wine. Oh, Mercury.
All right.
That's even better.
No. All right. It's the polearm of Mercury.
This guy's creative.
That's the book.
You heard it here first on tWoTcast. This guy's great.
Mercury is probably not a bad book.
Polearm of Mercury.
All right, next
man.
Joe, what else you got?
I have one other Twitter question, but I also have a question from Alan. I don't know if you know this, but Taffy Bennington sings our intro song now.
I've heard of her. I'm a great fan of Taffy Bennington.
Well, she sent me an amazing question for you, but I feel like I might save that for last. What do you think about?
Please do.
All right. We'll go with the other Twitter question.
Wait, before the Twitter question, did you guys ever actually discuss the spinoff, I guess, with Matt and the Shanshan lands, or was that
the Outrigger novels, as they were called? Yeah.
Oh, God.
Or was that just kind of like an idea
that was just in the notes?
Okay.
Yeah.
Which, if you come to Charleston, anyone, come to the Addlestone Library at the College of Charleston, look up Harlan Green in the archives. You have access to all of Robert Jordan's notes.
Don't you have access? Just give them to me.
It's a good follow-up to that. Just give them to me.
Just give them to me.
As always, I love Tom asks a legitimate question. Alan gives a very comprehensive, useful answer that is about as perfect and here's what the fuck's going on. And then Tom,
also very placating to the Board of Tourism for Charleston, Jono.
As it should be, because
we're going to need tourists.
Yeah.
Just wear your masks.
So anyone that wants to travel during this pandemic, come to the College of Charleston. And
Charleston.
I can't wait to get back to Charleston.
I know, yeah. We were, I mean, we've been talking about getting up there for quite some time, and we were getting close, and then suddenly this shit happened.
I had a whole brewery tour laid out for you guys.
Well,
we'll still do
now.
that. We'll just have to wait.
if we can pull you away from the bidet.
What if I put beer in the bidet?
No.
That's
No.
Alan. If you put vodka in the bidet, she'll never notice a difference.
She'll just be happier.
Yeah. If you put gin or apple, smell like juniper. Delightful.
Mm.
Just put a mint julep in the bidet.
We'll
Is that the Dragon Reborn?
Yep.
Alan?
That's it.
Just get accidentally hit by fucking ice chunks up the pussy. Like, God damn it, Alan.
Holy shit.
Well, that was a little unnecessary, wasn't it?
Jesus, Jono. God damn.
What's the next question?
All right,
Is
next
that-
question on Twitter.
Ice chunks.
/ last question on Twitter, because we need to wrap this up. Steph at Steph O. Kingston, who is also somebody that we've been talking to for many, many years on Twitter.
I know Steph. Yeah.
Yeah, she asks, obviously it was a unique situation, but what was an unexpected challenge of having to change and blend two authors for the last books?
Could you read that again, please?
I thought for sure he was just going to say no.
Yeah, what was an unexpected challenge of having to change and blend two authors for the last books? Like, was there a challenge involved in getting, like, Robert Jordan and what's that other guy's name? Branzo Sanzo?
Sarandon.
Oh, Suzanne and Sarandon together into one meshing, cohesive project.
No, I mean the only challenge, I think, because we realized Brandon was not going to write exactly the way Robert Jordan did. We didn't expect it, and Brandon himself said, I'm not going to try to copy his style. I'm going to do it my way.
Right.
So we understood the stylistic differences were going to be there. Everyone was upfront about that. I guess Maria and Harriet and my biggest challenge was to make sure the canon, I'm doing air quotes, was not violated.
Ooh, the Canon of Wine. That would be a good name.
The canon of wine. Yeah.
That's the book. That's book 16.
16.
Yeah.
Yeah, book 15 is already the pole arm of Mercury.
Mercury.
We can't change things now.
If it's called the pole arm of Mercury, I feel like that means they have to go into space.
Yeah. So that was essentially it. And no mortal could have been expected to get into the mind of Robert Jordan and really understand everything that had to be done. So obviously Brandon was going to start straying off at certain points, and it was our job to keep it within boundaries. And it was a nice working relationship, and I think it came out very well.
Percentage-wise, how close were we to not having the books finished at all?
It was God's will that they be finished.
Good answer.
That answer is 80085%.
I mean, was it always going to happen no matter what, or was it 50-50?
No, it was, I don't know percentages, but
60-90.
if the right author was found, it would happen.
Yeah.
How quickly, well, that's a horrible way of putting it, but I guess sort of what on Tom's saying, like, what was the thought process after that happened where you're just like, oh my God, the fans will be devastated. We need to do something. Or was it like, let's grieve and we'll figure this shit out later? Or, you know what I mean? Like, what was the mindset at that point in time? That must have been
fucking tough. Yeah.
Yeah, that must have been crazy. And I'm sure Harriet was dealing with 99% of this that I'm talking about. But I mean, like,
yeah, it was mainly Harriet and Tom Doherty from
Tom O'Hara. Yeah.
I thought you meant me.
No.
This is Harriet calling Tom on the phone. What do I do?
Maybe
What do I do?
Contact you too, Tom. But Tom Doherty, the head of TOR. You know, Brandon wrote a very, very sweet, piece about the passing of Robert Jordan and what Jordan meant to him. And Harriet saw that and was very impressed and called Tom and said, what do you think? And she said, you know, let us have some, let me see what he's written. And we all read Mistborn and we're very impressed with it. That was the first Mistborn at that point.
No, incorrect. It was Mistborn out yet? It was the
it was Mistborn.
Oh, I thought it was
Mistborn was out, the first episode.
Gosh, they handed out Mistborn at JordanCon 1.
You're right. I'm sorry. I was thinking of what's that other one?
Yeah, it was the one before that.
Elantra.
Elantra. Yeah.
The one that was like the car, the Korean car.
Yeah, the Honda Elantra.
Yes.
But that was, you know, that was like a not so good. But when you read Mistborn, this guy knows how to write. He knows how to say.
You guys got Mistborn beforehand? Because I don't, because I remember I don't remember when Mistborn was published, but must have been right around then because I remember the first thing I read of his was Elantris, and I liked it but didn't love it. But Mistborn was way better, and I think it kind of showed that arc he could have been on, his own.
Yeah.
They published.
No, we all read Mistborn at that point.
They published a special version of Elantris after that.
Amy, stop chiming in off camera.
Yeah, come on, camera.
Go back to the bidet.
Oh, hi, Amy.
No, come back here.
They published. There was a special version of Mistborn that was given out at JordanCon.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
It had come out already, but they did another version.
That's awesome.
And
how much Brandon Sanderson owe you, I guess.
By the way, that would not have been a JordanCon episode with Alan on the podcast if Amy hadn't chimed in randomly at some point in time.
Alan, coming back to the serious question, though, how much does Brandon Sanderson owe you for his career?
Everything. I mean, a little.
You want a percentage?
Yeah. We'll go with 78%.
No.
All right, 87%. 93? 95? No. 97%? 99%?
Stop Joe when he gets there.
Alan.
Looks like it's 100%.
I mean, you heard it here first, 99%.
Yeah.
Let's go to Taffy.
All right. Let's wrap this episode up.
Wait a minute. Do we know if Taffy and Mr. Bennington have a bidet?
You mean Otto Bennington? Yeah, he does. Yeah.
Otto Bennington?
Otto Bennington? Yeah. He has a bidet.
That is Otto Bennington.
Yeah, Otto Bennington.
I don't know if you're aware, Alan. Like, Otto actually drinks more water than anyone I know. Just kind of one of those forceful urethras. And, like, he's kind of walking the day. And, like, that's kind of what their relationship is thrived upon.
I mean, Otto Bennington is Taffy Bennington's bidet. I think this is what Jono was trying to say.
Yeah.
Okay. So the water goes in, the water goes out.
Yeah. at pulsating speed.
Yeah. It just sits there. He's not circumcised, so he just kind of like closes and like yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Or as my wife says, wax on, wax off.
Indeed he does. I've seen it myself.
Taffy. We love you.
Taffy Bennington.
We adore you. We idolize you.
I feel like we should have had her call in.
Sign off or no?
What's that?
Should we do it? That's tWoTcast this week or no?
Yeah, we'll do it after this question.
Oh, is it a real question from Taffy?
Yes.
I think Alan and I are both of the assumption that like we're just signing off via Taffy.
No, I think that's just you.
No, that's just you. That's just you. Alan, when you are reciting dark poetry to your beloved Amy, do you wear your emerald velvet robe or your burgundy silk robe? That's Taffy's question.
How did she know that?
Blue sapphire robe.
Oh.
All right. Well, that's the answer.
Amy answered for you.
You know, when I was in Navy Supply School in Athens, Georgia. Tom's unstable. He's back again. You in the basement again, Tom?
He's wandering around drunk like an idiot, Alan. Don't worry about Tom. He's an idiot.
Like a homeless person.
Well, I live on
like
the
a
fourth
homeless
floor.
person.
I've got to talk outside, so I've got a lot of places to go. I had to go get a drink.
Yeah, I don't think I've even told Amy this, but when I was in in Navy Supply School, I used to travel up to Raven County every weekend.
I knew that.
Where we eventually bought a cabin, and of course Jono's parents on Lake Burton up there. And there was a woman who showed me a portrait she had done years before, and it was a portrait of me wearing a sapphire smoking jacket.
Holy shit!
I guess I didn't tell her.
I think you told her before.
No, that was Karen.
I've never heard about Karen. I've heard about Elsie and Nana, never Karen.
I think this podcast just ended a marriage.
I think Taffy Bennington ended a marriage, Tom.
I'm amazed. I mean, nothing you do would surprise me, but this has surprised me.
But your wife guessed it.
You've tapped into something that occurred 50 some odd years ago.
Amy always knew in the back of her mind something was wrong.
She was feeding those questions.
No, I knew something was very right.
Oh.
It works, baby. It works.
You sound like you're talking to the plumber about the debate.
Yeah. My plumber is good.
All I can say is Taffy rules. Mike, cherish this lady.
Otto.
You mean Otto Bennington?
Huh? Oh, Otto.
Whatever, guys. I'll keep his real name in / not real name. Who knows if it's Mike or Otto? We don't know.
It's Motto.
Mr. Bennington.
Motto, I like that motto. The thing is that he's wearing a sapphire robe. She never asked what I was wearing.
Oh, we can see what you're wearing.
Here's the thing, Amy. She knows you're naked. That's obvious. That's why it's not a question.
Peacock feathers.
So that's tWoTcast for this week. If you have any comments or questions, the best way to find us is on Twitter at tWoTcast. Listen wherever you get your podcasts. You can email us at twotcast@gmail.com. You can join us in the conversation on Discord server, permanently linked at the top of our Twitter profile. We're on Patreon now. That's patreon.com/tWoTcast. If you enjoy the show, help us out and give us $1 or more. And thank you to Robert for joining our Patreon. I don't know. I still don't do last name. Should I do last name? I don't know.
I don't think so.
Hey, I'm going with no, right? Robert,
I mean, it is relatively generic. No one could find this guy if they wanted to.
Fair enough. But anyway, thank you, Robert, for joining our Patreon. And
does Robert have toilet paper? Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe he does. Maybe he doesn't. Based on his contribution to Patreon, Alan, I would say he probably has toilet paper.
Because he's not giving a shit. I mean,
tWoTcast theme song is brought to you by Taffy Bennington at Sing with Taffy on Twitter and Anarchy 101 on YouTube. Join us next week for The Wheel of Time, Book 1, The Eye of the World. I have no idea what part or what chapters, because I have no idea when this episode is coming out or when it will be interrupting our normal thread of things. You've been listening to Jono.
Jono!
And I'm Joe. Keep the changing, filthy animals, and Tom.
Study your math.
And thank you to our amazing guest, Alan Romanczuk.
And
Always a pleasure.
And his
Alan, you're supposed
wife.
to silently hold up a glass and not say a word to say goodbye.
That doesn't work.
Amy, say goodbye.
And also, Amy was here. Bye, Amy.
Bye.
Bye.
She had the closing words.
We can talk like normal people.
Wheel of Time. Reread podcast. Explicit and R freaking rated. Jono's the wild card. Always talking shit. Joe's the straight man. He's a total dick. Tom calls in if he's not too busy. We are tWoTcast!
Live in a, no, I've seen you live, but
Yeah.
I haven't seen you live in a tWoTcast.
It's been quite some time.
I was
Hold on, this is
wondering-
actually Kenny. No, it's
Yeah, I've just seen the mask the whole time, but does he pace during tWoTcast? Usually?
I do often get up and leave during the podcast.
I will never forget. And I think we've probably related this story once or twice, or 4 times.
This is the year we really kind of met Alan, really.
But that's correct. It was during Patrick Rothfuss. We were live with Rothfuss.
Oh yeah.
And, Rothfuss was going waxing, whatever you want to say. And in the middle of it, Tom just walks away. Like the fucking back door. If you remember, that hotel had a back door.
Someone asked Rothfuss a very eloquent question, and then Tom, while he was in mid-sentence, Tom stood up, walked behind everyone at the panel, walked out through the employee doors at the back of the panel, like to the back employee hallways of the hotel. And Rothfuss was just like,
and Joe just goes like, he's got to take.
I was like, don't worry about him. He's just going to smoke. He's a dickhead.
And like Rothfuss
is like, oh, okay.
That's probably why he never finished his books.
He's still waiting for Tom to
He's waiting for Tom to come back.
So shattered.
I crushed his confidence so badly. He's like, if I'm this uninteresting, what business do I have writing a book?
I'm this uninteresting in this fucking panel? What am I doing with my life?
But I got him to say that he doesn't believe in metaphors.
That is true.
I remember your questions just being so tortuous to him, but at the same time, like he couldn't not answer. It's just kind of like.
Oh, it's so good.